did you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone. Today I'm going to show you the update for Morrowind on the previous off-balance Templar build. Now a lot of you followed this one in the past, and some of our trial members did for a long time as well actually, and still do. But obviously due to Morrowind and the way that you sustain now, things had to be changed. And of course, since there are some rather important destro passives, destruction stuff passives if you like, that we can take advantage of. Now what we'll do first of all is look at our stats. Let's get some pots on and food and all that kind of stuff. Sitting on 41k Magicka, almost 19k max health, 2.3k spell damage, but that changes with our weapon glyph, and 61% crit almost. That will hit 61, but I have a couple of pieces that are not quite what I'm after, but we'll get to that. 909 recovery, whoopie-doo, and 64 points into Magicka. Now we're using the Thief and the Shadow, which some of you might know what that means, but we will get to it in the gear. We have minus Slayer, Vampire stage 4, and we're using max health, max Magicka food. Now, we'll start by getting to the skills. In fact, I'll first of all... Now forget it, we'll get to the skills. I'll explain along the way. Destructive Clench, or this is called Shock Clench because we're using a lightning staff on the front bar. This is one of the destruction staff skills, which I believe is the third one down here. And basically what this does is this hits the target, stuns them, knocks them down, whatever it does to them. Bosses can't be knocked down, don't forget, so it won't affect them for that particular part of it, but the dot will attach to them. They will have a lightning dot on them, or a shock dot if you like. It also does AoE damage as well on the initial hit. Now, for some reason this seems to have a very high status bonus to it when you use it, so this contributes to your off balance quite a lot. Also, it's pretty good damage. Beast Trap, we put this down just to give us a 10% crit damage. It goes underneath the target like this, it pops, and any target inside of that will get rooted, unless it's a boss of course, which it won't, but while it's active for 6 seconds you'll receive 10% increased crit damage. But because it's a rearming trap, it will actually rearm after the first close of the trap and then reapply itself again, so you'll actually get like 12 seconds of it. So it's really, really powerful. It pops twice. Radiant Glory, I know that Radiant Oppression, or whichever one the other morph is, does slightly more damage, but this one heals you while you damage. So there are so many bosses in the game, including Maelstrom and some of the harder trials, where execute of the enemies, where you're doing this repeatedly to try and kill them faster, you are taking a lot of damage, and the more you do this, the more you heal. So with that being quite high as a utility for you, I purposely stick to this particular morph. You don't have to, you can use the other one if you want, but this is the one I personally use and it's never failed me. Well, at least not yet. Puncture and Sweeps, your main spammable, does this. Anyone hit by that takes damage, and you heal for a percentage of the damage done. The main target in the middle, the first one, the primary one in the center, he gets hit for a lot more. In fact, he gets hit for 140% of the damage that the rest of the guys would get hit for. And as it says, heals you for 35% of the damage. Now, just to touch on this one again, because I did skip a little bit, when the target's under 50% health, this starts becoming effective. The less health, the more effective it is. I wouldn't honestly start using this until you're around 30% health on the boss or target or whatever you're up against. Anything above that, you're not going to get enough damage on it. So 30% and below, you'll be absolutely fine. Unless, of course, it's got tiny amount of health and it's a really low health target, or just a general mob or a mammoth or something, then in which case it's fine. Also in PvP, but this isn't a PvP build. In a light, we use this for the max magic bonus and for the spell crit bonus that this gives us just for having it slotted on our bar. Also, it's a Mage's Guild skill, and when we get to those passives, you'll also see why we have this slotted all the time. Ice Comet. I don't really use this very often, unless it's an oh shit moment. I've got barely enough ulti to cast it, and I really need to use it right now. But this is for stats. In the Mage's Guild passives, again, when we get there, you'll see why. But it's a very powerful ultimate. It does hit really, really hard. But unless you've got really high crit, I wouldn't waste this, because you don't want to mess up your first hit, because it can be really, really high, or it can be really, really bad if you miss. So I'd only use this in emergencies. Generally, I use the back bar ulti, but I'll show you what that is. Where are we? Harness Magicka. This is a morph of Annulment, which is the light armor shield, and well, it's simple as it says, it shields you. Brilliant. You take damage, it takes the shield instead of your health up to a certain point. If it goes over that amount of damage, then obviously that'll leak into your health after that. But also, if you get hit by spells, unless the whole thing is obviously absorbed, you can get it up to 3 times, and you get Magicka back for being hit with magic, which is really, really nice. Blockade of Storms, put it down like this, and it does damage to all targets inside of there. Now this is very important. Destruction staff skills, specifically this one, add a concussion effect. Now if you double up on a concussion, you'll get off balance. Off balance contributes to a lot of your damage. In fact, when we get to the CPs, you'll see where that is if you don't already know. But this is very, very powerful, especially with our back bar rotation as well, and this can also contribute to the rest of your group. Now, there's a status effect inside of this, and a status effect from lightning damage, which is also what we're using. Our light attacks, our destructive clench, and all those kind of things are lightning damage. And there's also some more damage with lightning inside the build as well, which we'll get to. But you'll see where I'm going with this. There's a mixture of magic and lightning damage all at the same time, and it's to contribute to off balance for you and for other people. But that dot has to stay on the floor the whole time. You don't let that run out. Vampire's Bane, single target death over time. Flame ability, actually. Now this does give you crit for activating it, which is quite nice, but just to make sure that doesn't fall off, we always put this on anyway in a light. This can be switched out for other skills if you need to, but for me, I purposely keep this on the back bar and the front bar to give me the bonus on both bars. So I get the crit and 5% max magic on both bars. Blazing Spear, simple as it sounds. Throw it, lands on the ground. Does damage inside of here, which is X amount. Where are we? 4 or 5k a second, depending on obviously your buffs and stuff at the time. It actually goes a lot higher than that, for 8 seconds. So it lasts the same amount of time as Wall of Elements. So you have those two both down at the same time while your Beast Trap is active, and you're doing your rotations inside of these. When they run out, you'll reapply them. I will do a DPS test towards the end and show you how that works. The final one is the ultimate. Oh, this incidentally, this skill here and this skill here are very, very powerful, and I'll tell you why they work together so well in a moment. This you can also synergize if you're picking this up. Not you personally, but one of your teammates can pick this up. And their highest resource bar, so if they're a Magicka build, it will be Magicka, and if they're a Stamina build, it will be Stamina. Whichever one of the two is highest, when they pick up this synergy, they restore almost 4k of that resource. It's really, really powerful. The next skill, Thunderous Rage. This is the Destro ulti. You unlock it at level 50 of the Destro staff skill line, and this is ridiculous. Again, more shock damage, and it lasts 9 seconds instead of 7, which the other Destros last for, the ultis, and it does a stupid amount of damage and can contribute to off balance also. You'll see where we're going with this. Passives quickly. Get all passives in here, obviously, because this is your main damage passive skills. You get a bonus to crit damage done. This is where Templars excel. They have a base 10% crit damage, and they also do an extra 10% damage to blocking targets, so it's quite nice. But above all, that 10% crit damage, mix that with our 10% from our Beast Trap, and then I'll show you where some more crit damage is when we get to our sets, and you can see where I'm going with it. They stack up like hell, and where some classes have a bonus to certain damage types like shock or fire or magic, Templars have a bonus to crit damage, that is, crit damage. Where's the good one? Here it is. When you deal damage with an Adric Spear ability, you have a 25% chance to deal an additional X amount of damage for physical or Magicka, whichever one of the two is higher. For us, it's Magicka. That's not 4k, that goes up to somewhere like 12 plus. And it can happen once every half a second. So this is an Adric Spear ability. So every half a second that ticks, you could proc that damage. Now this ticks every 1 second, so you'll only get it every 1, you won't get it every half second, but the cooldown is half second. So if you're stabbing this, which is another ability from that skill line, so this and this combined, now you can see where the cooldowns close in on each other, and you can proc that a lot. It's really, really high damage. So either one of those two skills while they're running can proc that free damage. And it can crit, so it's very, very nice. Dawn's Wrath, of course, get all of these passives, every single one of them. I won't go too far into them, but just be aware that if you use Dawn's Wrath abilities, you will gain ultimate once every 6 seconds each time you use it. So every time you cast a Jesus Beam, you'll gain ultimate. Every time you cast a Vampire's Bane, you'll gain ultimate, as long as there's a 6-second gap between each cast. Failing that, you wait until it runs out. But also, there is another bonus which grants minor sorcery, increasing spell damage by 5% for you and your group, for using a Dawn's Wrath ability. So, on our rotations, which you'll see, every back bar rotation, we fire off a Dawn's Wrath ability, which is Vampire's Bane. If I can find a squirrel to hit, where is something to hit, you'll do him. See on my buff timer there, 17 seconds and counting. That is minor sorcery. Now that counts for me and my group. I'll go through my rotations, blah, 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 blah. Switch to the back. By the time I reapply it, that then starts again. But it will start a lot earlier than that. I can keep an uptime on it pretty much 100% of the time. It's a really good passive to have. So make sure you get all of these passives, but they're obviously very important. And of course, reduces the cost of everything, including your ultimate. Very, very nice passives there. Restoring Light, this is more for healing and stuff, but make sure you get them anyway because it does affect the way that you perform in a lot of your skills. So make sure that you get all of these. Read through them in your own time if you want, but make sure that you get them all. There are a couple of skills you can switch out if you want to. I mean, there's Ritual of Retribution, which is like a big purifying circle on the ground, which heals everyone and damages the enemies. Or, of course, you have Channel and Focus, which, while it's down, it gives you these passive buffs, but also gives you resists and increases your Magicka recovery. Now, this is a choice for switching out for other abilities if you want, but I personally don't use them in this particular build. But have a look at them, you might like something there. We've already gone through these. These are very, very important. Shock attacks. If you're doing a heavy attack, your shock damage from your heavy attack spreads and does 129% of the damage done to nearby targets. So while you're heavy attacking, you do nasty splash damage. Very, very nice. Penetration buffs, of course, you need to keep these. This one increases your status chance of effects by 100%. So it increases whatever that percentage is by 100%, meaning while concussion is down, any chance to get concussion again is further increased by that passive. So they stack up, you get off balance. Then this is very important. A lot of people use 2 swords for a Templar because, of course, if you hold 2 swords, you get more spell damage and this will hit harder. However, this is area of effect, so is this, so is our first hit of Destructive Clench, and so is this. Everything, apart from a couple of skills, most stuff we're using is area of effect, and so is the Destruction Staff, ulti, etc, etc. And also our heavy attacks, if you have to use them on that bar. This is where this passive comes in. For holding the Lightning Staff, all of your area of effect damage done is increased by 8%. So everything that I just showed you that we do that is an AoE is now 8% stronger. Also, anything inside Lightning receives minor vulnerability, improving your damage by a further 8%. So it's really, really strong. And that's why we use a staff instead of swords now. Plus also, this is very important, light attack's got a pretty big buff to allow for people to weave more often. I mean, this is going to be poor because my buffs aren't on, but that was poor. That was like 2k. But if it was a sword, it'd be a lot weaker. Give me a crit. There we go. That would have been like 1.5, 2k on a sword. So we effectively do a lot more damage with our light attacks, and we will be weaving quite a lot. Well, on the front bar at least. So it's very important that we get that extra damage, and the way to do that again is the staff. Light armor, get every single passive in this tree. It contributes to your spell penetration, to your recovery, to your crit rate, and to your resists, everything. So make sure you get all of these. Medium, not quite so important. We are using 1 medium, but here just get the ones that matter to you. The sneak bonus, I use it for PvP, that's all, so you don't have to have it. Stamina recovery, that's actually quite nice because you will be blocking, you will be using beast trap, and you want to make sure you've got your stamina up at best of times. And this one just reduces the cost of dodge roll, which you will be doing. So it's up to you if you want them. They're not essential, but they can give you minor bonuses to things that you will use all the time. Heavy armor, of course, physical resistances, that's nice, we're using 1 piece of heavy. Increases health recovery, which is blah, but we restore Magicka and stamina at a very small amount if we take damage, so that's nice. And this, of course, increases your health by 2%, which we all like because we don't want to be squishy. Yes, I'm a vampire. Yes, I'm stage 4. No, I don't care. You can reduce your vampire if you personally want to do that. That's absolutely fine. But to save any messing around and to save me losing any of these shiny passives, which the main one is for PvP, I think stage 4. The rest is stage 3 and below. I just keep it. I've done pretty much all the content in the game with Vampire 4, apart from the new trial. But I've never struggled with it. Even in Maelstrom, on round 8, on the flame round, which is evil, granted, Vampire stage 4, still absolutely fine. Just know that even if you don't have Vampire, that round is going to kill you anyway. So just avoid the damage. This gives you max recovery, and this gives you undeath, which is really, really important. The lower your health, the less damage you take. So you're tankier, the lower your health, and you're less of a burden to the healers. In fact, they can get to you quite quickly, and you've got that little buffer or that little window of time where you don't actually die because you take a lot less damage. I've got to 1% and even 0% health at stupid stages and not died because of that passive. It is really, really strong. But again, like I said, it is your choice if you want to lower the strength of the stages, whether it be stage 3, stage 2, whatever. If you just want this passive, you just want this, or you don't want none at all, it's up to you. But I personally always stay Vampire 4 just to save all the messing around. Fighters Guild, yes, we're using Rearm and Trap. It was originally Beast Trap, but we need Intimidating Presence to reduce the cost of it because we use it quite a lot. And we need this passive here because you get 9 ultimate every time you kill an undead or Daedra or werewolf, which is essential because then we can pump out more damage. Mages Guild, Ice Comet, that's the ulti that we've got on the front bar for stats, if you remember he's saying, and that is because of this. Get all of these incidentally, just in case you do use a skill, but this is the big one. For each Mages Guild ability slotted, you get 2% max recovery and max Magicka. 1, 2, 4%. Lovely. Simple as that. Undaunted, get these. Pick up a synergy, get 4% of all your resources back. Have 3 different types of armor, light, medium, and heavy, and you get 6% of all your resources increased. So that's very, very powerful as well. So that contributes to our max magic, max stamina, max health. Siege Shield, buy this just for Sanctum Ophidia. That's a separate story, but make sure you've got it available, because when you get up to that last boss, if you don't have a Siege Shield, you're going to get told off by the raid leader because you're going to keep dying to Magicka bombs. Separate issue, but make sure you get that skill. And of course we are a high elf. 9% max recovery, 10% max Magicka, which is the biggest Magicka bonus in the game alongside the Breton. And obviously you get bonus to flame, frost, and shock damage. We do actually a lot of shock damage in this setup, but we're also doing a little bit of fire as well, so it does contribute towards that. Alchemy, essential. Medicinal use. This passive skill is probably one of the most essential skills in the game, and it increases the duration of your potions. Obviously sustain is an issue and you want to keep your recovery up, so if you are using potions, and you probably should be, where are we? Here. They last 47.6 seconds with that passive skill instead of a lot less. And the cooldown is 45, so that means that your potions last longer than your cooldown. So you can keep your buffs that you use on your potions up 100% of the time. It's very, very strong. Now, I did put a video in my channel recently about how to level alchemy very, very fast. So if you don't know already how to do that and you don't already have these passives, check out that video. That will help you get it to max in about 15 minutes flat. And it's really cheap as well. I've mentioned a couple ways in there to get some really cheap materials. Okay, so the gear and the way this is used. First of all, I'm going to briefly explain the rotation, and it is basically that when you're on the front bar, you hit them with a destructive clench, and I've got no one to hit. Give me something here. This ability here. And then you light attack and puncture and sweeps 3 times. Make sure you finish that light attack right at the end, and it will just fire in there. Now that will obviously apply your weapon glyph as well, making your hits stronger. So, destructive clench once, 3 puncture and sweeps of light attacks. Then beast trap swap, spear, light attack, wall of elements, heavy, vampire's bane, heavy. I'll do this on the skeleton in a bit. Spear, then wall, and then swap again. I will, like I said, I will show you that on the skeleton as well. I'll slow it down. I'll explain exactly why everything is where it's supposed to go, but that's a quick explanation of how it's going to be done. But the trick is, make sure you can get this little sneaky light attack in there between the spear. So spear, light attack, wall. That's a trick to learn. And also, puncture and sweeps, put the light attack in and then start again right at the end of it, otherwise you'll miss it. It's a bit tricky. Practice those two. The gear. This is obviously very, very important. Now, don't panic at what I'm about to show you, because I have a very, very good alternative, which basically the damage is almost no difference at all, if any. And we'll start at the top. Infallible ether, 4 pieces. This is very specific. 4 pieces, not 5, 4. Yes, you could of course use Moon Dancer, but if you do that, then you're going to lose a crit bonus and you're going to go under 60% crit, so I would not recommend it. So Ether is the better choice of the two for this particular setup. So you get a crit bonus, Major Slayer increasing your, Minor Slayer increasing your damage by 5% in a dungeon or trial, not anywhere else, and you also have an extra 129 spell damage. It's a very nice set. So I have the weapon, which is going to be sharpened. You need it to be sharpened. Then 3 jewelry. However, what you can do, if you saw my Sork video recently, you'll see that I was using the Spider Cultist set. Now, of course, the 5th piece bonus wouldn't be valid because we're not using the 5th piece. We're using 4. And this is the same with the Spider Cultist. You can use 4 pieces. Now, what that will give you is crit, which we have here. It will give you spell damage, which we have here. And instead of Minor Slayer, it will give you 1k Magicka. Now, between Minor Slayer and 1k Magicka, there's not a massive amount of difference, and it's obviously a lot easier to farm. And the reason I say Spider Cultist is because there is a staff that drops off of the last boss in Fungal Grotto 2, and if you get her staff specifically, it's a named one, it always drops in Sharpened. So it's a very quick and easy staff to get, in comparison to something like this, which will take you months. So if you have this, awesome. If you don't, go get that staff, get the 4 pieces of the set, 3 jewelry and the weapon, and you are done. Failing that, because of the way that the set is laid out, crit Magicka if you like, and spell damage, there are many other sets in the game that you can use instead that give exactly the same bonuses for a 4 piece if you have a sharpened staff. Vicious Death, Destructive Mage, whatever that, not Destructive Mage, actually yes it does, Ether Destruction, that one does. Also Destruction Mastery, that's also the same. There's lots and lots of sets that give you spell crit, Magicka, then spell damage. Any set that gives you those 3 bonuses for the 4 piece will work, as long as you have a sharpened staff. So once again, the Fungal Grotto 2 boss at the end, that's the easiest staff to get, unless of course you already have one for one of the other sets, in which case replace Ether with that set. The 5th piece is not valid, just the 4. Now the second set is Alambrius. We're using, I want divines for this, but unfortunately I don't have it, so I shit out with a light, so I haven't golded it until I get the divines. So I have a Alambrius helmet and an Alambrius shoulder. This is a heavy one, so I use 1 medium, 1 heavy, 5 light. This does need to be golded, but I haven't done it yet. And also I need to enchant it apparently, because I haven't enchanted it with Magicka. But anyway, you want to do that. In fact, you can keep the health on it if you just want the extra health, but failing that, enchant it for Magicka, of course. You get about a 300 or so for it. And the last set, obviously, is the Twice-Born Star. Now, I said a little while ago that Templars excel with crit damage because they even get it as a base passive when they start, so Twice-Born is very nice for them. I did try with the War Maiden, which is actually based on a lot of Magicka damage, and that is what we do. Magicka specifically from Puncture and Sweeps and Radiant Glory, but it wasn't quite strong enough. So this came out on top. And also, Alambrius does, if you do lightning damage, it spawns a lightning effect, 10% chance to do so. If you do fire damage, it spawns a fire effect. Now, our skills are mostly lightning and magic, but this skill here is fire. So this one can do fire, this one can do lightning, and so on and so forth. So both procs can go off at the same time. Most of you have been using Alambrius already, but if you haven't, try it out. You're going to really like it. Where's the rest of the gear? Now, of course, also what you need to do is have a Maelstrom Lightning Staff on the back bar. It will give you extra spell damage, of course. Preferably, it needs to be in Sharpened, although, again, I've got a crap trait on it. But basically, you need to make sure that anytime this is down, you're weaving with lights and heavies, because they benefit from this particular weapon. But your Wall of Elements must be on the same bar as the Maelstrom weapon itself, otherwise you won't get the bonus. think that's it. That is it. But make sure again that you go 1 heavy, 1 medium, and 5 light. Now of course, because we're using the twice born star, you know that it's got 2 Munda stone bonus, so that's why we've got Thief and Shadow. Full divines, all gold, you get 18% crit damage, and that stacks with 10% for the Templar's passives and a further 10% for the Beast Trap. So you have a lot of crit damage. Now, let's go to the CPs, and then I'm going to show you how to use this. Okay, same setup as my previous builds at the moment. Yes, there are jump points if you want to look into that and be a little bit more precise, but for the now, this is where I am more comfortable putting my points. 65 in each of these to balance them out. Don't go too high with these. Once you hit to 70, there's a 30-point gap between this and the end where it'll only give you 1%. So it's not worth it. So 65, 70 in these, and you're absolutely fine. 50 in here to reduce the dot damage that we take, and there's a lot of it coming in, especially from bosses, so that's really, really nice. 20 in ironclads to reduce those big hits, those one-hit ones, or heavy attacks, or whatever that come in from bosses. If you cop one of those, it's going to kill you. This actually prevents that a little bit and reduces the incoming damage. 10% into quick recovery to increase the heals that you receive. That includes from your puncture and sweeps and your radiant glory. And you get this passive, which is while you're rezzing somebody, you receive 15% less damage, and you should be resin in a trial or a dungeon to try and get people up quickly. And as you're a Templar, there is a passive skill which I did skim over. Make sure you get all the Templars passives where you actually resurrect people really, really fast in comparison with other classes. So make sure you get this here so that when you are doing your job, you take less damage. 30 into Warlord because we've got extra points now because of the way the CPs have been distributed. So this costs us less to break free, and we will be, especially in the new trial. 75 points into recovery. 25 points to finish this to 100 would be 1%. Don't bother wasting the points. That's why we've got them free to go into here. A few extra put in, obviously, but same with this as well. We do a heavy attack, we get magic back. This gives us 14% more. If you put extra 25 points into here to reach 100, you'll only get 1%. Don't waste them. 30 points into tumbling because you will be using a dodge roll now and then, and it's cheaper. This one's tricky. 75 points into Thaumaturge. This isn't just for death over time damage or dot damage, whatever you want to call it, but this is because this tree specifically requires 75 points in order to get this exploiter passive for off balance. And yes, that is the name of the build, and it has been since before Homestead. However, Thaumaturge is the only skill in this area that benefits Magicka, because we don't do crit weapon damage, we don't use physical penetration, we don't use mighty or any of that stuff. So this is the only one that we can use, so that's where the points have to go. Otherwise I'd split them up, but I can't. 10 points into Staff Expert because we are using heavy attacks a little, and I'll show you why. 56 into Elemental Expert, 8 into Spell Erosion, and 61 into Crit. Now this is the best combination I've come up with so far, and it's been tested a lot. However, if you are familiar with jump points and you want to mess around with it a bit more, then feel free to do so. Also, don't forget, because you got 125 in this tree, you get Arcane Well, which means if you're next to an enemy that you kill, you have a 20% chance to restore a shit ton of Magicka for you and other members if they're close enough to pick it up. Now I'm gonna hit this this dude over here. With a typical. I don't think I'll be able to finish a rotation with him. But you see the fire that fell into his face there, or that in the air? That's from Vampire's Bane making a Lambrius proc, the fire variation. Now I'll force this one actually. I'll just make the effect happen. I'll just give him lightning damage and nothing else. Come on, don't let me down. There you go. And that's the other variant of the Lambrius proc. So lightning damage and fire damage can actually both fire off at the same time. And he's nearly dead and I haven't even done anything. Okay, so I'm going to go to my house. I'm going to go and smack the skeleton a little bit and show you how this rotation works. And then I will finish up with a demonstration of a full DPS test on the skeleton, putting everything into place. Okay, here we are. There's Bob. Just upset him. Okay, basically how this works is before you'd be able to fire this maybe and stab, 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 stab a few times. Switch bars, spear, light, wall of elements, start again. You can't do that anymore because if you do, you're going to run out of juice far too quick. So what we have to do is utilize our heavy attacks without upsetting our rotation. Also consider that stuff like this, Vampire's Bane, you can see, I mean, it doesn't show the first second, but that lasts 12 seconds. And our rotation is normally like 10 seconds, and you want to make that last. Beast Trap also, 6 seconds there, and then when it rearms, it's another 6 seconds. So that's another 12-second dot. And if I'm only doing 3 spears, 1, 2, 3, switch, that, I haven't even done 8 seconds. Maybe close to 8 seconds. I want to make sure that I get the most out of these. Destructive Clench also lasts a full 10 seconds plus a 2-second knockdown effect or whatever. So instead of over spamming our abilities to some extent, we want to make sure they last. This one here lasts 8 seconds. This one lasts 8 seconds. So we have a mixture of dot timers. Some last 10, some last 12, some last 8. Now, we can capitalize on this because we can slightly overcast, but use that to get our magic back. And the way we do that is this. On the back bar rotation, we do spear, light attack, wall of elements. But instead of swapping bars, heavy attack, throw in the Vampire's Bane, heavy attack again. Now I've got 2 ticks full of Magicka back then. Then, obviously, the floor dots are going to run out, aren't they? So I'll reapply them, and then I'll switch. So, to do that once more, let's get these out of the way. Go 1, 2, heavy, vampires. Vampires is now running. Heavy again. Reapply them, and then swap. Now while I'm on the front bar, look at Vampire's Bane in the buff timer. It's still running. Now, when I get to this part, it's just run out, and I now reapply it. So my Magicka sustain is inside the rotation quite healthily now. It's really in there. Now, ignore the damage because I'm not buffed, but it's now about to run out. Inside my heavy attack, I'll reapply the new one. So the Beast Trap is running all the time now, and the Vampire's Bane is running all the time now, and it's not affecting our overall DPS with massive dips for some dots and overcasting for others. Yeah, we overcast this one. Let me get that on the target so we can see how long it lasts. I don't think it shows us. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It should run out. 3, 2, 1. Now. See, that runs out not far after my second heavy attack anyway. So reapplying it is absolutely fine. So let me reset this dude. Pick him up. Put him down again. Oh, my bags are full. Wounded. 1 second. Have we got anything I can just squash quickly? Probably not. Ah, man. Ah, we'll get rid of that. Okay. Pick him up. A little trick. Instead of killing the skeleton completely and then having to reset it and all that stuff, just put him in your bag, get him back out again. He's full health. He's also in the floor. There we go. So, we'll do it slow. Well, I'll try and do it slowly. Light attack first. Destructive Clench. Light attack puncturing 3 times. You've got to get those light attacks in. Spear, light attack, wall of elements. Heavy. Vampire's Bane. Heavy. Spear, light attack, wall of elements, swap. Light, clench, 3 puncturings and lights again. Start again. Light, beast trap switch. Spear, light, wall of elements, heavy. Vampire's Bane, heavy. Spear, light, wall of elements, swap. Clench, light, puncture. And you just keep repeating. You squeeze your ultis in when you can, and you just keep repeating. Now I'll show you a very quick DPS test. Of course, you can kill this on your own just about without Elemental Drain. But obviously Elemental Drain is going to be in a trial anyway, so you may as well use it. So I did do a DPS test with Elemental Drain, and you can see the difference in sustain, how well this actually stays up, and how much Magicka you have towards the end of the fight to allow you to just execute like hell. But just remember that in your execute rotations, instead of clench and then 3 lights with puncture and sweeps, like this, you're going to do a clench and then 2 executes. Like this. It doesn't look like much because he's got a lot of health. You do 2 of them, and then just carry on your normal rotation. Start again, and then you do 2 of these again. You don't need to worry about the heavy attack on the back bar on the execute stage, unless of course you're struggling, in which case just keep the rotation exactly the same and replace the puncture and sweeps with a Jesus beam. So I know there's a lot to take in, it's quite a complex rotation, but it follows all of your dot timers. It keeps up a really healthy uptime of off balance. It procs both of your monster sets bonuses at the same time, and also it's very, very healthy in terms of keeping up your Magicka and DPS at the same time. So let me just show you the DPS test and then we'll wrap this up. Okay, so this here is where I'm trying out multiple different sets, and obviously I came to the last one, which is what we've got now. I did try with War Maiden, as you can see, the 30k or 30.5k was that actual set, and then switch back to TBS and Ether, or TBS and Spider Cultist 4-piece, and the damage is about the same actually. But you can, as you can see on the back bar, the off balance ticks from the heavy attack on the lightning staff, which is for our sustain above all, does a really healthy amount of damage, and that's with me using a powered Maelstrom lightning staff. You get sharpened, that's going to be a lot more damage. So what we do end up with as a result at the end of this DPS test could actually be potentially quite a lot higher, at least an extra 1k, maybe 1.5k, depending on how that affects it overall. But as you can see, the back bar rotation is used not just for extra damage, but also for uptime of the dots and for your sustain at the same time. And if you look at my Magicka bar here, you can see that I'm not even struggling, and that's just with Ellie Drain, just from the Magicka return from that. So although I could spam a little bit more and a little bit less heavy attacks, I mean, this is really, really healthy, and as I said, it gives me a lot of Magicka for when it comes to the execute stage, which we're now coming up to. Now you can see both Alambrius procs at the same time, because like I said, fire and lightning is running both together, and they both fire off together when they feel like it. And now I'm basically keeping down 2 floor dots while spamming execute, and my Magicka is not struggling. So this is a really, really healthy balance overall of decent damage and sustain combined. And as you can see, 33.3 or 33.5 almost. So hopefully that helped. I know it's a little complicated to start with, but once you get the hang of it, it kind of gets embedded into your brain. It's built in. But to start with, it's going to be a little bit tricky. You just have to make sure that you get your rotation down on the front bar, very, very clean, and then your back bar. Do it separately if you have to, just to get into the swing of it, and then put it all together. Now, like I said, with the gear, don't panic about Infallible Ether unless you already have it, of course, in which case you're covered. But the 4-piece Ether is changeable for many, many different sets that must give you the 4-piece bonuses of this. They must give you 1 crit bonus, 1 max magic bonus, and 1 spell damage bonus. Any set that allows you to do that, if you can get sharp and lightning staff for it, get the jewelry, you're done. It's really, really simple. Now, I think that's pretty much it. Just be sure, once again, like I already said, keep everything active and make sure that you use this ultimate as much as possible. Ice Comet in a jam, Death Royalty the rest of the time. So, of course, I want to say a big thank you to everyone for following me so far. If you're not subscribing already, please do hit that subscribe button. It is free. So, again, thank you everybody so far for supporting the channel. And, of course, the extra support outside of the channel from you Patreon guys as well, who are paying a monthly subscription to get early access and all that types of things. Really, really appreciate it. And you guys are definitely also helping out quite a lot when it comes to the build videos with multiple suggestions and stuff like that. It's really, really good and really, really positive to the channel. Obviously, because Morrowind is now out, I do have a lot more build videos to come, because I have to update all my previous ones, but they're going to come in thick and fast. Hopefully, within the next 2 weeks, they should all be out by then. But, once more, thank you all very, very much for watching. If you do get a chance, please do check out the Patreon page. That's in the description. Also, the website, xynodegaming.com, and, of course, the Facebook page as well, which, again, is linked in the description. So, thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and goodbye.